Okay, we'll move on to the next one, which is I think the one that people really want to see tonight. On the independence of SCAN and student media, this is proposed by Gabby and Will. Would you have anything to say? I know there's a number of speakers who've indicated that they would like to speak. As you put your hands up, if you see me nodding directly at you, it is because I have your name written down on my speakers list and I will get to you in turn. So would two of you like to begin?
Pretty much what it says. I think we've all seen this week the effect what some articles by SCAN can have on the Students' Union, and whether people think that it should be curtailed a little bit and maybe like some authorisation over what they publish.
Okay, we'll take Ronnie Rowlands first.
Okay, I shall answer each question individually. 1, should SCAN have free rein to discuss whatever they please? Answer yes. 2, if members of SCAN are not permitted to speak badly of staff members of LUSU during council, does this extend to their written work? Not entirely sure what the question is getting at there. 3, should SCAN be critical of students within union or supportive? The answer is yes and no. If SCAN feels that students have done a good job, then by all means praise. If there are things to be criticised, then do go ahead and criticise, because remember that SCAN is not just an internal newsletter for, LUSU officers to read. This is for our members, and our members can be as critical of LUSU as they like, and SCAN, as the voice of our members, should be more than entitled to speak up on that. If there's should SCAN act more sensibly towards members, how would this be governed? This is governed by A, the editor, B, me, and C, the law. I certainly do not think that it should be the prerogative of this body to decide what the SCAN editor does. They were elected by the SCAN membership. When that position became non-FTO, it was done with the rationale of granting it a degree of independence from the union, and now this to me seems to be attempting to claw it back. My rule with SCAN, and I have final oversight on what goes in SCAN, different people in my post in the future may see it differently. My rule is, if your story is true and it can be proven, I don't care, go ahead. That's all I have to say for now.
I will take the proposer Gabby next, and then I also have Jack Perry, Polly Davis, Josh Dickinson, Frankie Phillips, and Laura Langton and Chris Osborne coming up. So Gabby, would you like to respond to that?
Firstly, it is a discussion item, not a debate, so I'd quite like it to be discussed through with everyone's opinion on board and not just an argument. Secondly, if it is a case of people, if it's taken as facts and therefore it's written down and blah 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 blah, why then are things being published under news which they're factually incorrect and everyone knows that they're factually incorrect, and why is it not written in the comment or posted as a blog?
Such as, if I may, the non-alcoholic review of Freshers Week, which came out after this week, which was by almost all colleges' account, correct me if I'm wrong, was factually incorrect and was scathing on several accounts towards most of the colleges, and was in parts unfair and in other parts rude to, and from what I can see, they've gone on all of the colleges' Facebook pages and decided that the publication on the Facebook page of the Freshers Week timetable is the final and correct timetable, and that's the amount of news investigative journalism that's gone through. It's clearly a comment piece and it's been under news. So for new freshers that read SCAN, or new people that read SCAN see that, it's a dig at the college system at the same time as a union we're trying to save the college system instead of this college review, so I don't see how that goes towards.
I really don't think SCAN is trying to dismantle the college system.
Ronnie, Jack Perry, next speaker.
That article was designed, the idea for the article was in fact mine, with in fact the intention to highlight a problem that I know a lot of JCRs have problems dealing with, i.e. trying to organise events for people who not only won't drink but indeed can't drink, and I know that's a problem not only for the individuals themselves but also for the JCR, because it's quite difficult to organise those events, and we completely respect the hard work that the JCRs do put in. This particular writer, once the piece was written, we did try to signpost it as distinct as possible from the news section, But we do completely respect the college system. Obviously, we've perhaps been the most proactive in highlighting the upcoming college review. And as I've said to other members of this council, if there are complaints, email them to me, scan.editor@lusu.co.uk, and we will publish them.
Okay, next up, Josh Dickinson.
Yeah, so my big thing on this is obviously that it targets SCAN in particular. If these questions have been raised, they should be raised to the whole of the 3 student medias. All these questions in this document apply to myself, including Bowery. For instance, we are a body of SCAN, of LUSU, and we're funded by LUSU. We are also critical in certain parts. Just on Tuesday, we were critical of Colin May, for instance, and our support for education. However, that said, by Ofcom regulations, for a few different ones, 5.1, news must be presented with due impartiality. 5.13, broadcasters should not give undue prominence to particular persons or bodies. 9.1, broadcasters must maintain independent editorial control over programming. These issues discussed here should be applied to all student media. They can't, because we have better protection. Unfortunately, SCAN can't have this better protection. But these are in place for a reason, is because they're really important to media. These are put onto, we luckily have this from Ofcom, SCAN doesn't get that, but they're exactly the same. They should have these free wills, and if anybody on this council, myself included, don't want what you do being questioned, or if you don't want to see your name, why you shouldn't be sitting on this council if you don't want to be questioned over what you're doing, and you should explain to who voted you in if you don't want to be questioned.
Davis, then Frankie Phillips, then Will Headley.
The point that I was going to make is almost best been made by Josh, but journalists as a rule should be able to say what they know about news, because quite frankly, we should be held accountable. There are enough problems with people not knowing who's on council, not knowing what council does, not seeing the point in LUSU, being critical of LUSU just in the general student body. Let's at least give them some truthful material to read, to be critical of. But I do have a side point, it's more of a personal matter, but I wondered what is the, do people have to be told if their name is going to be printed in SCAN in their comments? I found out I was mentioned on the front page of SCAN this week, just because a friend sent me a message going, you're on the front page of SCAN, and I was quite surprised. And not that I was, offended in any way by what was said, I just wondered, are we supposed to be informed?
No is the answer to that. I mean,
Okay.
you're speaking Union Council, which should, apart from under certain circumstances, should be a public forum.
That's what I assumed, I just thought I'd check.
Okay, so I have Frankie Phillips, then Will Headley, Chris Osborne, and Rachel Hughes coming up next. So Frankie, then Will.
Yes, what I want to say is I do personally, as a lot of people probably know, have issues with the particular article which has been mentioned. I'm not going to go into details exactly what I'm sure they probably will be raised, but at the same time I feel it is SCAN's job to hold people to account. So obviously, they shouldn't just be able to, I don't think they should be able to think whatever you like, but at the same time we've got to be very careful when approaching the independence that SCANs can do its job, that it can hold people to account, and it's not going to get into trouble, if someone does do something, it's not going to get into trouble for, bringing it to light. I don't want to, have kind of LUSU controlled print story about how brilliant and amazing everything to do with LUSU is, because I think that's just going to alienate people.
Okay, Will.
I mean, I just want to start by clearing a couple of things off. This wasn't submitted as a discussion item as the independence of SCAN. There was no official title affixed to it from our end. And just in terms of what you were saying earlier about, obviously, we are there to be held to account. It's of course, we're not suggesting that any power should be limited. It is, at the end of the day, a discussion item. But when SCAN produces articles, and it's not just the Freshers Week article, but stuff like, from my perspective, obviously a college perspective, from stuff like our Extrav article last year, if it's not been thoroughly investigated, I feel as though it's unfair to print those things when the colleges haven't been approached properly to get proper information about an article, and then an article is produced. For me, from what I've read personally, it gives a disingenuous version. And obviously, like you said, it's not just about Scan. These things can be applied to all three formats, and they should. But again, it's not about the independence of Scan. It was just that issues had been raised by myself and Gabby from various sources, and we thought it was worth bringing it to council as a discussion.
Okay, I've got Chris Osborne, Rachel Hughes, Josh Dickinson, Jack Biles, and Damon Fairley. So, Chris?
I'd like to echo what Josh said about, and actually what Will just said about making sure that all the same rules are applied for all media. And I think those Ofcom guidelines, although not applied to print and web media, are very good starting points. I think the other thing to remember is that students engage with LUSU in very many different ways. And some students will be engaged with what we're talking about here tonight, and some of them will engage through their colleges, some of them will engage through their societies and something like that. And student media is one of the few places that all of these different ways in which students engage with LUSU can be praised, criticised, have a light shone on their activities, and I think making sure that there is a wide breadth of coverage of all different parts of LUSU without any unnecessary editorial control from any of these parts is vital. And the last thing I would like to say, I think if you read the article in question, I found that there were several colleges in there which were actually looked on very favourably in it, and there were some which were criticised, and I think we need to make sure that as long as an article is not falling entirely on one side of an argument, I think that's the most important.
Okay, Rachel Hughes.
Okay, so a lot has been said that I was going to say, so I won't repeat anything, but I do want to just make a point of saying, like, especially, I mean, you've raised the article, the alcohol article, if you don't like something, write a complaint, it gets published. You didn't write a complaint, it didn't get published, and so instead you brought it to Union Council to vent a personal thing for your college. So just wanted to say, we wanted a discussion, and I think you could have brought it to a more relevant group of people as well. I mean, there is media board, you could have come to EdCom. There was a more relevant place for this to come first.
Okay, I'm going to take Gabby to respond to that, and then we're going to continue with Josh Dickinson, Jack Biles, Damon Fairley, Laura Langton, Demiji Adamiju, Amy Bowden, and Joe O'Neill currently on the list. So Gabby, would you like to
this
respond
was
to that?
definitely not a personal thing from me. This is, I know that other people have complained about the particular article in question, but that is not what I'm bringing this here for. This is from back to last year, when it seems to be a weekly thing of Scan articles upsetting people, and it has been raised as an issue in the past, even with LA1 TV, it's been raised as an issue, and it's not supposed to be about one article and one article in particular. It's supposed to just be questioning whether there should be a line on what is said. That's all.
Okay, Josh?
No, I was mainly going to echo Rachel's point that if there's anything that you feel unjust, for instance, that article in particular, or if it was something on Bayer, you would always, and you felt that you hadn't been treated fairly, you'd always be welcome. And I'd like to say this now, so all members are always clear that you'll always be welcome to, if it was Bayer, come on, speak your case, and we'll always help publicise the other side point of view, because that is what, as media, we are here for to do.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to take Jack Biles and Damon Fairley.
Well, I'd just like to make a few points. Firstly, the way this is written, I don't like the almost the entire nature of it. It seems to imply to an extent that LUSU should be almost in complete control of Scan. That Scan should have no more independence, and the way it's phrased, generally speaking. But not only that, Gabby, you made this point about Scan making articles that upset people. Scan's not there to be your friend. It's meant to be there to report the news, and it's unfortunate if people get upset, but if you don't like the way that Scan's reporting something that you've done, for instance, say this Union Council, you shouldn't do it, or you should do it, rather. And not only that, but
Okay, I'm going to let Gabby respond to this.
I think it's already been said, but there is a difference between reporting facts and difference between taking something out of context. And like, I know a few people were worried at first about LA1 coming in and filming this in case it was specific bits that were taken out of context. Whereas if they're filming the whole thing, no one can argue against you, and I'm fine with my views being portrayed like that. But if it's written down, and we've seen it this week with the whole Jack Fillmore thing, that it can be taken out of context and reported wrongly. and there's a difference between news and comment.
Okay,
That's what I'm
Damon Fairley.
I don't want to comment on the particular article because I've not read it, unfortunately. I won't endeavour to do so after this meeting. But I just wanted to generally say I do believe Scan should publish what it likes, and just from my own dealings with Scan, I actually find the editorial team very accommodating and very easy to work with. I just wanted to bring up a specific example. There was a lot of negativity around the Sugar House in lots of different student medias, and what we did to tackle that, instead of trying to sort of regulate what people publish, is we had an interview with Scan and put our own side of the case across, which came out of a really good article. So I'd just end on Scan stands for Student Comment and News. So if we disagree with certain things Scan publishes, I'd just encourage you to contact them and put your own side across.
Okay, after that, I'm going to take Demidji and then Laura Langton, because you had your hand up a while ago.
And I think the people who have a problem with this discussion being brought up are contradicting themselves. Because the whole purpose of freedom of media is also freedom to check the media and hold them accountable. And I think what this is simply doing is a discussion item. It's not a bylaw change. It's holding you guys to account. Like, some articles won't be 100% correct and will. And I think the purpose of this event, of this discussion, is actually healthy because whether you guys, because it's different from normal world, because you're the only newspaper university representative. There's not another people which can hold you accountable. You can battle each other with, if I can say that. And I think this discussion item is exactly doing what everyone has a problem with. It is maintaining your independence. The fact that you're being checked on whether you're right. We're not just letting you write whether you want without questioning it, as normal people do.
Okay, Laura Langton.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I think I'm personally a really big fan of Scan, and I think it's a really good place to put your views. But then also you've got to think about the responsibilities that you have, because I know that a lot of people, and this is with Bellery and anyone and everything as well, nothing against you at all. But I think personally I find out a lot through Scan, and I could be very easily swayed on particular views by what you write. And I think that as a body, as kind of looked over by LUSU, you have got a responsibility to make sure that the news that you're writing isn't something that could put anybody in LUSU in bad favour. Fair enough, criticise everything that we do, or not criticise things that we do badly or anything like that. But I think that Freshers Week is one of those things that is a massive part to anybody's student experience. And if it's started to be spoken about badly, it could really damage Lancaster from outside of points of view as well. Because when you put in LUSU in the Google search, Scan comes up very high on there as well, so people are going to find out a lot about Lancaster from that. And I think it's not like you shouldn't write what you want to write. I think that it's more, it should be done in a way that is favourable, that can be taken, people can make their own decisions on it rather than attacking, but not attacking, that's not the wrong word, but you get my point. I think it's just responsibilities from Scan.
Okay, so I have Amy Bowden, Joe O'Neill, Jack Perry, Ronnie Rowlands, Josh Dickinson, Lee Dunning, Chris Osborne, Henry Saker Clark, and then we'll have closing arguments. That's it. So please don't put your hands up anymore to speak. The speakers list is full. Amy Bowden? Been said? Oh, short and sweet. Thank you. Joe O'Neill?
I've forgotten what my point was. I think that, yes, if something Scan has written about you feel is badly researched or portrays you in a negative light, you should have a right to reply. As long as that right to reply is there, then I'm unsure what the continuing of this discussion is. I agree with Dimeji, it's completely healthy that we're having a discussion about the standards and quality of the media that we have, and I'm glad that the student media are here to answer questions on that. I think that's healthy and good, but you shouldn't just wait to come to council to say, should Scan be able to write whatever they please? They should, as long as it fits within the law. It can be proven to be true. It isn't libelous. It doesn't cause any sort of legal issues for the union. Scan should be able to do that, and you should always have the right to reply. So if you do think that something is portraying you in a negative light, write back, put your side of the case, involve yourself in some journalism too.
Okay, Jack Perry.
I would just completely like to echo what Joe and indeed Dimeji have said on both sides.
Okay, fair enough. Can we move on? Ronnie Rowlands?
Yes, mine is just really a closing remark at my end, really. I can recall 3 years ago the state of Scan, where in terms of university matters we had headlines such as Vice-Chancellor announces 5-year plan success And on LUSU's end, LUSU Christmas Market deemed a success. So little criticism. It was like a series of press releases. Over the last couple of years, SCAN has begun to turn a corner. Over the last 2 years, we've started criticising the university far more. We need to do it to the union as well. We cannot become a megaphone for a small collective, and we cannot just be there to pat people on the back. We need to be critical and we need to think about these things. And I never ever want to see us return to such a kind of monotonous, universal, Orwellian state again.
Okay.
I'd like to keep it in this state.
All right.
Yeah, I think it is important to question such things if there is a case for it. I don't personally see a case for this having been brought to council. I don't see a documented, repeated exposure to SCAN misinforming or getting things wrong. There seems to be one article, and I don't think that's really enough of a case to bring it to council. In terms of the Jack Fillmore article as well, I'd like to point out that on my side I thought the main article in News was fairly balanced. It just reported on council's issue, and it did say both sides of the argument, and there was things in comment as well which which in its right place commented and disagreed with some of the things there.
Okay, Lee Deving.
Really quickly, I just wanted to pledge support for this being a discussion item. I think if, as a JCR, someone brought down 30 people to your college space and then picked up an edition of SCAN or latest edition of LA1 or Bailrig and went through it and said, this is wrong, yeah, you shouldn't listen to that. And I think if student media come with it, that they want answers. So I just wanted to pledge support as a discussion item that we should be allowed to sort of turn around and say, okay, maybe it's not the best forum to do it, but we should be allowed to turn around and say, okay, we've done that.
On that note, just to point out, I will take all discussion items, whatever you folks want to propose for future councils. Stuff that's interesting that will pack the gallery with observers, please submit them to the next councils. 2 more speakers, Chris Osborne and Henry Saker Clark, and then we'll have closing comments.
Just as a follow-on really from what Lee said, this will the real value in bringing this in as a discussion item to council is only going to be there if this is actually discussed with the media. And I think there's 3 of us here tonight to answer questions and a few sitting in the observers, but realistically, if you have questions like this, the best place to do it is to come along to our exec meetings. If you message any of us, we've said we will be happy to speak to people, and that is the best place to do it because it involves far more of the student media, including the people who have produced or written any of these articles or shared.
Okay, Henry.
Yes, I'm news editor for SCAN. A lot of these articles have gone through me, and I haven't written them myself. I've been criticised. We do obviously try as hard as we possibly can to be impartial, but I can't fact check every single thing that is possibly written within news. However much we do trust our writers, and if you do have a complaint, as I said, I don't initially being put forward, but me and Natalie are the news editors, Jack's the editor, come to us with complaints.
Okay, closing statements. Ronnie, you already indicated that your last statement was your closing statement. You didn't have anything else to say as VP campaigns and comms?
No, I think
no? Okay, Gabby, Will, as the proposers, do you have any closing statements to make on the issue?
I just think that I'm glad that I brought it here because I think that it showed that there needs to be a lot more communication between the colleges and the members of this council and the student media, and that's the way of going forward with it.
Okay, very good. So we will move on.